What is going on, everybody? James Jackson here. Happy Wednesday to you all. Hopefully you all are doing well. If you're looking, my setup may be a little bit different because typically I have a different camera setup. So I'm doing sort of a Frankenstein setup for this stream because my main camera is this camera, which is the camera we are going to be talking about. So yes, today we are going to be I'm going to be giving a live review of the Canon C70. So today I'm going to ask this question, a couple questions, and try to answer them as best as I can. And that is, number one, a question that has been brought up by other YouTube creators, those that have reviewed the camera, and that is, well, first off, or at least have read about the C70, and that is this camera an actual cinema camera? So that's the first question I'm going to answer. And just spoiler alert, yes, it is a cinema camera. It is just as much of a cinema camera as Arri is a cinema camera, and I'll get more into that later. And then the next question is the question that's in the title: is this the best cinema camera for under $10,000? And all I will say is it has a very strong case. So we're just doing a little preview time just before our official start time of 11:30, just to let people in and let people know that, you know, the stream is happening. So hopefully you guys are able to see that. And also, again, the setup is a little bit different, so my audio may be a bit off or maybe a bit different. So if my audio, just let me know if you guys hear my audio, and let me know if there's any issues, if you can hear me clearly. So allergies. So if you hear me sniffing, it's because of allergies. But yeah, so that's the talk about today. I'm going to really dive in more so. So this is not really going to be more so a technical review. So if that's what you were hoping to get, then I do apologize. That's not necessarily what I'm going to give you. Instead, what I'm going to give you is basically a review based on real world experience of using the camera for, I guess now, 4 months. 5 months. I would say about 5 months, for using the camera for about 5 months now. This is, I am going to be talking about just using it on different types of projects, but more so talking about sort of how does the image hold up, and just what this DGO sensor can do. So we're gonna get like I said, we're just waiting, getting little things early, a little pregame. So if you guys are in the chat, just throw up something. Let me know you guys are in chat so I can make sure nothing's going wrong this time with YouTube not showing this up. How's everybody's morning going today? And by the way, if you guys have questions regarding the C70, please leave them in the chat, in the live chat, so when I finish my review, I am definitely going to go through them and compare them. I got some footages for you guys that I will be playing during the live stream, both from some shots from some projects I've worked on, but also some tests that I have compared to Blackmagic's Ursa Mini, both the original Ursa Mini Pro and the G2. And the results are interesting, and I'll keep it to that. So you guys are interested in that little comparison, I will definitely, you'll be excited to see that. See, we got 10 minutes before we officially start. Everybody got their morning coffee in today? I'm not really, I'm not really a coffee person. You can ask my wife. My wife is mainly the coffee person. I'm kind of a bad energy drink person, but yeah, it gets me through all the different types of works I need to do. I just take one for the day. Hey, all right. Hey, Max, thanks for letting me know. Good. So live, and you guys can hear me loud and clear. Just want to make sure we got that. Good to see you again, Max. And thank you for all you guys that joined me yesterday on my live stream going over Panasonic's announcements. Thank you guys for joining me there. I really do appreciate it. I just want to just try to continue building this community, of inspiring filmmakers, helping people the best way I possibly can to make sure they can achieve their goals in the film and video. Okay, you had a sweet one. Nice. That's good. That's good to hear. Loud and clear? Okay. No. All right, so it's good, it's clear, that's good. Like I said, this is a completely different setup than what I normally use for my live streams. Because this, for like pretty much the past 5 months, has been my go-to live stream camera. So it's going to be good. I'm doing good, Max. I'm doing good. I've been starting in like March. I have been like swamped busy. Like the entire month of March, I was like, it was project after project. April, there was a couple other projects that I had to work on, and then I took a little vacation with the wife. We went to Dominican Republic, and then like May has sort of just been picking up, trying to pick up where I left off. So that has been me. So I can't complain. It's good to see some work back again, especially in the type of business that we are in, because I know a lot of people are still not seeing a lot. Couple of people mentioned in the live stream yesterday that film jobs are sort of still slowly coming back in, but we are seeing them pick it back in. It looks like, especially in like the major metropolitan areas, they are picking back up. So hopefully that will spill back into the smaller markets as well, and then we can all get back to having somewhat of a normal life, or some sense of normality. My laptop. So I don't know if you were here. So I actually got a new laptop. So the new laptop that I have is the Gigabyte Aero 15 OLED. So that's the new laptop I have. I still have my old laptop, but that one has pretty much been, I'm pretty much only using it to be the main hub for my live streaming. The new laptop basically is my new post-production computer, and it handles all my like post works like so much better than my previous laptop. It can actually handle the R5 HEVC files, not all of them to the best extent, but especially the newer light codec options that were released with 1.3 firmware. It plays through them like butter. So I'm very happy, and the fact it's an OLED, so I can see blacks, like true black. I really do enjoy it. I probably will make a review. If you guys are interested, I'll probably make a review of the Aero 15. But I have been loving it. It's been a great, amazing laptop. Let's see where we're at. We got about 5 minutes before we start. But yeah, the Aero, like I said, Aero has been working great. The layout's kind of funky. But it's something that you can get used to. It plays back R5 RAW files as long as they're not graded. Once you start grading them, it does tend to clunk up. But if you just have non-RAW 8K RAW files, it plays it back smoothly. I can scrub through them without any issues. It's only once you start grading them, which, you know, for the most part, that's not a big deal for me, because I'll just do the edit and then I will just, once that's done, I'll just start grading it at the final end. It's the NVIDIA, is it the NVIDIA 2037? It's NVIDIA, I forgot. It's a 2000. I do know it's an NVIDIA 2000. I believe it's NVIDIA 20 something 8. It's like 2000 something 8. I can't remember exactly which one, but it handles all the processing pretty well. Like I said, I think the main thing with me with the previous laptop compared to the new laptop, especially with the newer laptop, is that the RAM. I can put up to up to 64 gigs of RAM in this one. On the old one, I could only put up to 32. So I fully installed 64 gigs of RAM onto this computer, and it pretty much it just never slows down. 2070, yes. 2070. Yeah, NVIDIA 2070. So yeah, that's the GPU I'm using. The GPU works great. It's an upgrade to the previous one, which I believe was like a 1060. This is NVIDIA 2070 Supermax Q, to be specific. NVIDIA 2070 Supermax Q for the newer laptop. Yes, RTX. Yes, RTX. So, but not 2080. Not 2080, 2070. It's a 2070 Supermax Q RTX. So, yeah, I thought it was 80, but no, it's 2070. They have one that's with one of the new 3000 NVIDIA, but that one was like almost another $1,200 for that version. And I was like, this one works for it. I tried one M1 laptop, and my experience is still the same. If you are working in the Apple ecosystem, Final Cut and everything, you're fine. But because I work in Resolve, even though it has something built to design, now they just did an update recently. I don't know if that affected it because I don't have an M1, but I did try it, and it still struggled a bit. But this one doesn't struggle with the all the files from the C70. It handles like butter. The files from the R5, it handles for like 80% of them. The raw file, it can handle the raw files. It can handle most of the HEVC files. And if you hear running around, I apologize. That's my daughter. So to me, this works. It's a 4K screen, display screen. It's an OLED screen. It's color accurate. So really can't wait. So yeah, been enjoying it. People slowly coming in. I see. Do some final checkups. Make sure we're good here. Okay. And it's 11:30, so let's get started. What's up, everybody? James Jackson. Welcome to my live stream. Today we are going to be talking about and reviewing this guy right here, which is the Canon EOS C70, the latest cinema camera, the smallest. Is it the smallest? I don't know. The one you see, it's one of the smallest cinema cameras Canon has ever produced. It's the first cinema camera that hosts the RF mount, and I'm going to be giving my review on this camera today, live stream, based on my experiences, and also talk about whether if this camera, one, is it an actual cinema camera? Because some people say it's an amazing video camera, but not necessarily great for cinema or narrative film work. And is it for the type of camera this is there's three type of categories I go. I say cameras that are under $10,000, cameras from above from $10 to $2,500, and then everything above that. Those are like the three main categories of filmmaking that I sort of see. Is this the best camera for under $10,000? And that's the question I am going to ask today. So let's get started. So I want to just talk about the experience of just working with it, how it works, feels. This won't really be a technical review. This is going to be just purely on experience, my experience with the camera for having it now for about a little bit over 5 months. And I want to, hopefully I can answer any questions you may have about the C70, whether if it's autofocus, whether if it's image quality, low lights, anything that you may have regarding that. And if you do have questions, definitely leave your comments in the chat, and I will definitely hit it at the review. So when I first got this camera, I kind of was like a little bit unsure just because the finish felt weird, just from a texture standpoint. It felt a little weird, but honestly, it's a pretty durable camera. I've actually had one experience where someone knocked the camera over, and I still don't have a cage because cages are just coming out right now. And it basically, everything is working in perfectly order. So that's a great thing about this camera. If you're familiar with the Canon cinema cameras, this isn't really anything different. You got your buttons off to the side, your main things, peaking, zebras, waveform monitors, display, multiple function buttons that you can all customize. You got the handle. I will say, once again, with a lot of Canon cinema cameras, the ergonomics feel great. I like the fact that this time around, I only have to flip it right here to turn the camera on, and then I don't have to turn it off to go into media. I just hit this button, and it will switch into media mode, as you see right here, and then just switch it back to just go to live view. So in terms of just functionality, everything, if you're familiar with Canon cinema cameras, it's great. But I want to really start getting into, the thing that's really going to determine if this camera is what is going to be for you, and that is the image. The image is the selling point of this camera. And that because of one, it's a Super 35 sensor, but also it's the DGO sensor that's also can be found in the Canon C300 Mark III. Now, I haven't worked with the C300 Mark III. Now, I have gotten some sample footages from people when the camera first came out and just played around with it, and it looks great. The image out of this camera is absolutely stunning. If I will say this, anybody that tries to make the argument that this isn't a cinema camera has questionable motives at least, or doesn't know what they're talking about. The image, if you are one of these people that are a filmmaker or someone who is tired of hearing about the resolution war and tired about everybody rushing to 8K, and hey, 4K is perfectly fine, and you're one of these people that make the argument that 4K is perfectly fine for content delivery, or even make the argument that, hey, the Arri Alexa only has a 3.2K sensor and it delivers better 4K looking images than than majority of the cameras out there. This camera makes your arguments to the T. The sensor, this has got, I've done a lot of tests with this camera. I have tested it along with the C200. I have tested it against the Ursa Mini Pro, the Ursa Mini Pro G2. I've had it look side by side with the Pocket Cinema cameras as well. I can, let's say, with clear certainty, in regards to just pure sensor technology, the power of this sensor, in terms of latitude performance, it's better than all of them. It's better, the latitude performance of this camera is better than all of them. It's better, every single Blackmagic camera that I have used before, the latitude, the dynamic range is overall better. Just from a pure sensor technology, just a pure sensor capability, it's better. Just from a the dynamic range is absolutely insane. And I'm gonna just cut to some images that I'm gonna show you right here. If you've seen the coffee commercial, if you've been on my Instagram, you know about the coffee commercial I recently did. These are some shots from that. And this is one of the things. Now I'll just pause it like right here and let me see if I can pull myself up here. The crazy thing about it is, like, it may look clipped, but that's just how I kind of had to. You could still, if you were to look at the log profile, because this is actually like the baked footage, this is not the original footage, but all this information outside is still there. There's still details outside and one of the things is, if you know how to grade, you can get really good, interesting quality, like film looking images. Like this right here looks amazing. It has a definite like cinematic quality to it. And then let me go to another, and what I love about it is, like, if you pair it with other lenses, in this case, this was a music video that I did with it, and I was using the 28-70 f2. The details that lens can render, like, it gives like so much clarity, so much quality. I love this. I think honestly the 28-70 f2, that RF lens, is probably one of the best I cannot talk this morning. It is the best complementary lens that in terms of a Canon lens that you can possibly get with this camera. It's just amazing. But if you want to just see in terms of dynamic range, this is some BTS shots of a shoot we did with some orthodontists. And this is one I want to talk about proving the dynamic range. And let me pull this up. So I'm going to turn this off for a second. Let me go here and turn this off. So you got let me be clear. There isn't any really lights hitting this area because we're setting up lights to go in towards where we're particularly filming. So there isn't really any lights casting in this area. This is, well, it's still morning, but it's like high morning. I would say about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And as you can see, this is still when snow was still around. And just look how much information this camera is capturing. And I'll turn the grade back on. So even then, you can have it. Now, I sort of just did a little bit of a grade, but if I turn that off, like, you can pull this information and still get all this information that's in the shadows and the blacks. You can get all that information back. It's really quite impressive. Let me see if I can get another. So again, like right here, like you still got, you'll see here as we sort of go through here, you still got all the information in the background. Now, some of this, like especially the wider parts of the snow, that parts are clipping. But again, just the amount of dynamic range this thing is able to catch is practically insane. And then again, just the quality that you can get. If you have something like Cinematch, like right here, this is just a simple, like if you just, it's a simple use of Cinematch. compared to like a red, and there's so much information that you can pull with this camera. And I mentioned that, like, comparing to Blackmagic camera. So I actually did some side-by-side comparisons to this camera. Now, and I put them in like really strenuous detail. So this one I wanted to sort of test the like underexposure capabilities of the C70 versus the Ursa Mini Pro. Now, let's be clear. The best thing about the Ursa Mini Pro is its highlight roll-off. The highlight and the highlight roll-off is stellar. It's amazing. And oops, I went back. I didn't mean to do that. So, but the shadows, like if you're not careful with the shadows, you can clip them and you can lose so much information. And you'll see it here compared to the C70. So this is the Ursa Mini Pro right here. And this is just like applying a simple LUT. And now if I was to try to raise the exposure, you know, try to bring some of this information, see if I can bring some of this information. It may be hard to see, but you're starting to get noise patterns back there. Now here's the C70. By the way, all the exposures and everything is exactly the same. So the f-stops are the same, the ISOs, the shutter angle, all the exposure tool settings are the exact same for both cameras. Now, if you look at the ISO, the C70, this is what's amazing. It's just that shadow detail and just how much information is in this camera. And that's one of the things. And when you talk about the roll-off, like again, here's the Ursa Mini Pro. And as you can see, what's really great about it, again, is that highlight roll-off. There's so much information here from this light bulb that you can still retain. And then when we go to the C70, again, the exposures are the same. It's just how the C70 is handling the shadows compared to the Ursa Mini Pro handling the shadows. Now, it's not, the highlight roll-off is a little bit like ever so tightly, not as smooth as the Ursa Mini Pro, but it's still retaining a lot of details, and nothing is still clipping on that camera. So the point I'm trying to make here is that this sensor is so good because of how clean the noise floor is, that if you shoot at the native ISO in C-Log2, you can pull a lot of informations into from the shadows and still get a lot of saturation, and still get a lot of color detail and color information. Now, there is a catch because of the limitations of the SD cards. Depending on the frame rate you're choosing, there will be compromises because the camera can only shoot so much that can write to an SD card. However, if you were to go out of the HDMI and go into like an external recorder and that can shoot ProRes, that problem is completely solved. And again, you can render out so much detail and get so much detail, especially up to 4K 60, because that's when the DGO is still engaged. Now, I may spend a lot of time talking about the DGO sensor, but that is really the thing that if you're interested in this camera, this is what's going to sell you on that camera. It's just purely just how much information is in there. So I'm gonna take a break and just see chats. Hi Jay, hey man, what's going on? Have you had any experience with the RF-24-270 IS? How stable is it for handheld documentary work? So I have not had experience with that particular lens. I did, however, have experience with the 15-35 2.8 IS lens. And the IS on that lens combined with the digital IS, it's actually pretty damn stable. In fact, actually my buddy John, Junkyard Cinema, he's in the chat. What's up, man? Me and him actually did a wedding this past weekend. And one of the times I was filming on the the EF 70-200 IS lens. And I was actually able to get really solid handheld shots using the digital IS with the lens stabilization. Now, this isn't something I would basically do for do continuously. It's really great if you're just getting some nice lockout shots. I would not do like serious three-dimensional movements. But any stabilization, whether if it's digital IS or IBIS, I don't feel comfortable, and I don't feel they're good enough for that just yet. I would still always go with a gimbal in those situations. But if you're talking, but purely just for like a lockdown shot where you're trying to get sort of akin to a tripod shot, the digital IS and lens stabilization combination works really, really well. So I don't know if that answered your question in terms of the 24-70, but hopefully it answered. It gave you some idea. But we also got to talk about the mount. The mount is which is the RF mount. And what's cool about this is that this sort of opens up so many different options. Like I said, you get the 28-70 f2, and what's great about it is because, you know, it has built-in NDs to the camera, you can use something like the 28-70 and then not having to worry about figuring out, okay, how the frick am I going to find a 95mm filter thread I got to screw on that none of my other lenses typically use, because the NDs are already in there. You know, you could just use the 28-70 and then just shoot. Or you can adapt it to EF lenses. Like right now I got it on, this is actually the variable ND adapter, but right now I got the clear filter on there. And then I got this guy, which is the IRIX 15mm T2.6. If you guys saw my first impressions video, in terms of using this on a full frame, I felt it was a little bit too wide for my liking, just personal experience, not necessarily in terms of a full frame field of view. But I know a lot of people will love that. But because this is slightly larger than a typical Super 35, this has a crop factor of 1.37. The field of view is actually pretty solid. I guess it would be the equivalent of, if I've done the math correctly, 20 millimeters. It would be like the equivalent of 20 millimeters. And to me, that gives me a good enough field of view for my particularly liking, that I can deal with it without it feeling so crazy distorted and it just like throws me off. So I think, you know, if you like shooting on super wide lenses, I think the crop factor is not severe enough for that. And so that's some great options, is like with this RF lens. And then in just terms of experiences, I just love the fact of how compact and how tiny this is. And the fact of how well, this gets to my point. Sorry, let me silence my phone. So the reason why the battery sort of leads to this. What I like about it is, one, the main battery that comes with it doesn't protrude with it, but also just the lifespan of it. You know, coming from the pocket cinema camera and dealing with that battery life, even with the C200, where you really maybe have like an hour and a half on like a BPA 30 battery like this, I can get 3 hours of battery run life with this camera. And then if I was to use something like this, which is a battery I really do love, this is from Core SWX, this can give you over 6 hours of battery run life. In fact, when I was filming the wedding with my buddy Junkyard, I didn't really even get to this one. I actually, because I have 2 of these BPA batteries, I pretty much only used these 2 through the wedding, and I was able to record everything, and I only used this for maybe 10 minutes. And so battery runtime is really great. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because of compact. It's the fact that I can keep this camera on a plate like this, go from tripod and literally take it off the tripod and stick it right onto my Zhiyun Crane 3S and start shooting gimbal work with maybe 5 minutes of taking time to balance it out, because it's compact enough that if you add even heavier lenses, it works well. Like I was working with the 28-70 on that music video shoot that I brought up before, and and I was using the gimbal for that, and it pretty much it handled the weight. Like, and y'all, if y'all know the 28-70, it's a pretty hefty lens. And being able to like just use that and be able to get the details I wanted was like so simple. I love cameras that just make things simple and make things just easy to go to. So that's what really appeals to me. And it also has an amazing, beautiful image. So yeah, the body is like, if you're looking for a nice, small, compact lens, it's great. I love the fact that I can relay record. So if I'm in a situation where I need to record something, and maybe I want to have a backup in case something happens to that card, and then just be able to send it either to my client or to another person that I'm working with, having dual recording slots is always clutch. So, and the fact that also, the other thing that I really like is the fact that it has timecode. When I was shooting this, little corporate video for a client, where I was shooting this alongside the Ursa Mini G2, being able to just have that time code and then just be able to sync them both up in post just made things work so much easier, because this was something where I had a very serious, like tight, like super tight time around. Like I had like 36 hours to complete the project and finish it. So having the ability to have time code, send it up, and just sync the audio up in post just made it so much easier to work with. And just the plethora of professional features, waveforms, false colors, being able to load LUTs onto here. The only thing I would say I would critique is I wish Canon would be able to allow us to push LUTs out of the camera. Because when you're streaming or when you're sending out through the HDMI, it doesn't send the LUTs. And that's sort of the one thing that I just wish it did have. Alongside, obviously, having RAW would be, like having 12-bit RAW would be an amazing. Hopefully they'll add those things in the future. Let's see what else. I guess I'll just make a quick thing about autofocus, because I know autofocus was a big deal for a lot of you guys that you may have heard from other YouTubers. So I've used the autofocus multiple times. I use the autofocus all the time when I'm doing my streams, when I'm doing my YouTube videos. I use the autofocus whenever, I used the autofocus on the wedding that I just shot this past weekend. And for most situations, it works amazing. There are situations where it struggles. Now, it's also just, but I will say this, if you're familiar with the Canon C200 or any of other Canon's previous cinema cameras, it works pretty much the same. The only difference is it's slightly better in the fact that if your subject turns its head around, it still finds the head. But if you're in a situation where you have a whole bunch of moving subjects moving around, it can get confused. And of course, the other thing that's been brought up is that, people of color tend to struggle with it. I didn't see that, only if you underexpose, which obviously people of color tend to underexpose a little bit more likely than normal because we're a little bit darker. So all I would just say is, as long as you're exposing correctly, the autofocus works really, really well. So overall, I guess I'll just wrap up the review by simply saying this camera has such great ergonomics. It's such a great, easy to use camera. I can feel comfortable handing this camera off to somebody who has never worked with a cinema camera before, and they can pretty much figure out in maybe a couple minutes how to operate this camera. And then it's that sensor. The sensor gives so much so much play. Like me as somebody who loves color grading, it is so much fun to color grade this information and just seeing how much this camera works and how much this camera stretches in terms of its dynamic range capabilities. So, but yeah, in terms of is this the best camera for under $10,000? I think it makes a really, really good argument for it. However, you know, the lack of an SDI port for video, I know that's going to be a turnoff for a couple people, especially whose has accessories that are pretty much SDI only, and I totally understand that. And then of course it's the fact that there's no RAW. But the argument I would make is that if you look at the Arri Alexa, if you were to just buy that straight out, the Arri Alexa does not shoot RAW. You actually have to pay a license to actually get the ability to shoot Arri RAW. It only shoots ProRes. Now, to be fair, that is able to shoot ProRes 12-bit 444. This currently only shoots 10-bit 422. Even if you were to go externally, it only shoots 10-bit 422. However, we also do know Canon is making a lot of moves to go to the RF mount system. This being their premier camera to go to the RF mount system. Let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if Canon was to come out and announce that either ProRes RAW or Blackmagic RAW will be supported with the C70. Now, if you're thinking that's going to cripple the C300 Mark II, the C300 Mark III, I don't agree with that, simply because the C300 Mark III just has so many other different things that works for the environment it's supposed to work in, with the different back mount accessories that allow you to get additional XLR inputs, the fact that it has full-size XLR inputs, the fact that it has so many more SDI ports, 12G SDI ports. There's so many other things that anybody who's in that area of looking for that type of camera, they'll go for that camera anyway. Getting RAW into this camera will not affect their decision. So I will definitely say the image definitely puts it right up there with something like the Red Komodo in terms of its dynamic range performance and its image quality. But I will say it definitely makes a case. I don't know if it's fully yet the best camera for under $10,000, but it makes a very, very strong case for it alongside something like the Red Komodo. Anyway, so that's my review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let's go to the comments. Okay, Junkyard. Is it better than the C200 for weddings? Yes. Yes, it is. It's smaller, it's lighter, it's easier to just carry around. John, I don't know if you're still here, but it was so much easier to just put this on a monopod and just move around in like rooms for the preparations, setting up the plug in to go plug directly in. The fact that it's so easy, you could do it, you could strip it and have it all set up with a microphone and everything for weddings, and then strip it all down to go right onto a gimbal. It's really easy to do with almost very little work. And the fact that it has 10-bit, the C70, the C200 doesn't. So unless you plan to shoot RAW the entire time during weddings, it has more dynamic range than the C200, and then it has better professional video features than the C200. The list goes on and on. Overall, it has a better battery life, a long-lasting battery life than the C200. Yes, it absolutely is better. From my personal opinion, it's better for weddings. All right, Faith House. When pairing the C70 to the R5, do you think log 3 on the R5, or do you shoot RAW and apply a lot in post? Thanks, Faith, and thank you for joining the chat. Either option is great. It just depends on the situation. If I am in a situation where I have a seriously contrasting lighting situation where there's an extreme amount of latitude that I need to capture, I'm going to shoot log 2. But honestly, if I don't need to do that, I would probably just shoot log 3. And the reason why is because it gives me a lot more flexibility in terms of working with roughly similar, how should I put it? Similar bit rates. And it's easier to go in post instead of going with like all eye or long up MX at AVC and then shooting raw with the C70, with the R5. But because honestly, log 3 works well for most situations. Understand, C-Log 3 and C-Log 2 share the same highlight roll-off. The highlight roll-off is the same. The only time you'll see the difference is how the roll-off is in the shadows. C-Log 2 will definitely give you that. But there's also other situations. If I'm filming a high frame rate situation, I'm actually going to shoot Canon Log 3 because at 120 frames per second on the C70, the DGO sensor is disengaged, so all that noise comes into play once you go to 120 frames per second or go above 60 frames per second. So in that situation, if I'm filming stuff and I need 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second and I need to match the R5 and the R6, I would shoot C-Log 3. You're getting you're losing a little bit of dynamic range, but unless you absolutely need all of that dynamic range from C-Log 2, because you're not really getting that much advantage in C-Log 2 with shooting raw on the R5 compared to the advantage you get in C-Log 2 with the C70. So it just makes it easier to just shoot C-Log 3. Hopefully that answers your question. At work, got to go. We'll watch later. No problem. Thanks again. Yeah, so any other questions regarding the C70? Hopefully, I don't see any more coming in. If you got any more questions regarding the C70, please let me know. I will say this, but I'll go to dive a little bit deeper on your post about matching the C70 with the R5. Yeah, I would also make sure you shoot in the cinema gamut LUT, because I actually did a side-by-side comparison. Let me see if I can actually find that. Let me see if I can actually find this video for you guys. I don't know if I'll be. Let me close this out. So, okay, here it is. Let me see if I can do this really quickly. So I actually, yep. All right, let's drop this. All right, so I actually did a little side-by-side comparison of the R5 and the C70 after the Log 3 firmware update. So, and what I don't know if this is actually, is this log? Yes, it is. It is. Okay, yes, it is. So if you actually, and now let me, you know what? Let me turn this off. Give me a second. Let me turn this off and cut back. Cut back. And then let me, shoot, this isn't going to work. All right, so anyways, so essentially what I did was, where is it? There we go. So essentially what I did is I just put these two videos together, and also let me turn this back on. So I have two videos, so I will cut to this. So this is the C70, and this is the Canon Log 3. So I'm gonna just drop this LUT real quick. So we got the C70, and that's by the way, that's my daughter, everyone. And then I'm gonna drop the same LUT on the C70. So I dropped it on the R5. So this is the R5 LUT, and I dropped it on both the R5 and the C70. Actually, I think this is C-Log 2. Yeah, this is C-Log 2. But you'll notice that they actually, like when you actually put them together, they actually match pretty well. So that's one of the good things, is that if you do make a LUT for like the R5 for Canon Log 3 Cinema Gamut, it will match. So if you're using C-Log 3 on the C70, it will match to the R5, because sometimes I know, depending on the cameras that works, they don't necessarily line up exactly, but I have noticed that the image tends to look the same when you have C-Log 3 on the C70 and C-Log on the R5. Have you matched? All right, Martin. Hey, by the way, thank you for joining the channel. Have you matched, or is it hard to match C7 to FX6 or FX3? So, if you're talking just manually matching it, it is a bit difficult to get them to match. However, if you have or purchased CineMatch, it's actually a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to get them to match. Now you have to make sure certain parameters are the same. Like, you have to make sure whatever your source is, whichever one you're matching to. So if you're matching the FX6 or the FX3 to the C70, you have to make sure the white balance on the FX6 or FX3 matches the C70, and then vice versa as well, if you for the vice versa situation. And then also, you just have to make sure the lenses are basically they're similar lenses being used. But if you do that and use CineMatch, they actually do a pretty damn impressive job. It may cost a pretty penny for some. It's like, I think it's like $250, but it is well worth the value if you want to try to match cameras from different things. It is well worth it. I've used it. I actually used CineMatch on my music video that I had recently released, that matched the C70 to the Pocket 6K from somebody else that filmed all the way in Ghana. So I got footage from somebody filmed in Ghana, took that to match the C70 that I filmed over here, and they complement each other perfectly. So I would definitely say look at using CineMatch if you're looking to match multiple cameras. Another option is you could use the color space transform to sort of get everything sort of lined up in the same parameters, or even use ACES, because that's what ACES was designed for, to create a unified color space. So, but I personally like using CineMatch simply because it gives me the options to sort of give certain camera looks to things like the C70. Because it got so much information, I can use it to match things like the Arri Alexa even more, or even make it look like red footage. So definitely say try that out. Would I have to shoot C-Log 2? It doesn't matter honestly, it doesn't matter what log you use. Just whatever you need to capture the most information. If you need log 2, which will give you the most dynamic range, if you need log 2 to capture the latitude needed for the shot, use it. All you have to make sure is when you're using CineMatch is you make sure you're matching the gamma curve and the color space correctly. So when you put in the profile, let's say you're matching the C70 to the FX6, you're going to take the C70 and say, this is the Canon C70 C-Log 2 Cinema Gamut. And then you decide between full or limit. And then after that, for the matching, the thing you're going to match, in this case, it would be like the FS6. You would say, okay, S-Log, Sony FX6, S-Log 3, and then I forgot the color space. S-Cine Gamut, S-Cine Tone, or S-Cine 3, whatever that color space is. Whatever the color space you use. Just make sure those information is correct, and then choose full or limit, and then it will line up, and it will match pretty damn close. It won't necessarily be perfect, but it's close enough that you can make tweaks around it to get it lined up exactly what you need. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I'll give a couple more minutes to sort of let anybody else get any more last minute questions in with this on the C70. If you actually, let me bring this down. Otherwise, I guess I'll just end the stream. Hopefully it will go well. So If you got any, if you do got any more questions, just again let me know. Right here to help out. So I'll give a couple minutes. Oh, I actually got under an hour. I was afraid that I was going to ramble on for so long regarding the C70. But I think I got the time I got. So that's good. So yeah, and this stream will be made public. So if you do have additional information questions regarding the C70, you may want to see, definitely let me know. I will definitely respond to the comments as well. Okay, Martin's got another question. For C70, what would be the correct way exposure for using false color? So with false color, with the false color built in, the key thing is, gray, like you want to keep skin tones as close to middle gray as possible. If not, it's better to underexpose them just so slightly than to overexpose them. Really, the key thing, for me, the key thing is just expose middle gray, which is like gray. And then as long as you don't see red and you don't see pink, you're good. If you don't see red, which signals you're clipping your highlights, and you don't see purple, which means you're clipping your shadows, then you're straight. Just avoid seeing pink, avoid seeing pink, pink, not purple. Avoid seeing pink and avoid seeing red. And that will be your signal to that you are clipping. Have I shot a short film with the C70? I have not yet. I'm hoping to make that. A change for this year. We'll see how it goes. But I've been doing weddings. I've done music videos. I've been doing a lot of music. In fact, I got another music video coming up in June that I'm going to be shooting with this. I've done a couple BTS footage with that, and then a couple I don't like calling them documentaries because I feel like documentaries are a bit more. They're a bit more explored and a bit more researched than what I would say. I would say like a mini doc. I guess I would say it's a mini doc. So that's what I have done. So hopefully that I would love to do another short film. I just need the time to just really hone it out. I don't like going in just like, oh, I just want to do a short film. I like to really flesh out the idea and make sure that my themes, my tones, my message, and my character beats are how I want them to be. Hopefully it answers. But no, not yet. But yeah, I guess that is it. So I am going to wrap up this stream. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this stream. Definitely, if you guys are still in the chat room, definitely leave likes if you guys enjoyed this chat. I love chatting with you guys. Leave the likes there to make sure YouTube's algorithm lets people know about this stream. If you aren't subscribed yet, definitely hit the subscribe button. And again, until next time, take care, everyone.